The sky over Zarna 3 was supposed to stay peaceful. It was a neutral moon, a quiet outpost used for resource gathering, not war. Humans and aliens worked together under a fragile agreement. No guns, no soldiers, just science, trade, and silence. That silence was broken in one day. Without warning, dark ships appeared over the mining colony. No flags, no warnings. Just fire. Just death. Sirens screamed. Explosions echoed through the rocks. The ground shook. People ran. Lieutenant Ray Carter, a human soldier on leave, had just stepped out of a medical tent when he saw the first blast. His instincts kicked in fast. He grabbed the nearest weapon and rushed toward the landing zones where most of the injured were being brought in, but what he saw next was something he didn't expect. Lying near the edge of a smoking crater was a tall alien female, green-skinned, silver-haired, and armored head to toe. She was trying to crawl, but her movements were weak, slow. Ray ran to her. "You okay? Can you hear me?" She tried to speak, but only a soft gasp came out. Her hand clawed at her chest. "My armor." Ray knelt beside her. He could see, because her chest plate was dented and cracked. Something was wrong with the breathing system inside. Her eyes were starting to roll back. She was suffocating. He reached for the emergency clasps on her armor. She grabbed his wrist weakly. "Don't touch." Ray froze. "I can't help you unless I get this off." She looked at him with pained eyes. "My people and we don't show our skin." Ray's voice softened. "You're dying. Let me help. Or you won't have to worry about what anyone sees." She didn't answer, but her hand let go. That was enough. He pulled the emergency latch. The armor hissed as it unlocked. Piece by piece it fell away. Chest plate, shoulder guards, helmet. And there she was, still breathing but barely. Her skin shimmered under the rain. Her body was strong, but her breath was shallow. He placed a rebreather device near her lips and gently held her head up. She took one deep breath, then another, and her eyes focused. She was alive. Later, inside a medical shelter, she sat on a bench, covered in a thin thermal blanket. Ray stood a few feet away, letting her have space. She stared at the floor for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "You saw me, without armor." Ray nodded slowly. "Yeah, but I only saw someone who needed help. You touched me. That's forbidden. If I didn't, you wouldn't be sitting here." She looked up at him. "You're different." He chuckled. "I get that a lot." Her name was Thira. She was a tactical scout from the Velkari system. Her armor wasn't just a uniform, it was tradition, identity, and protection. No outsider was allowed to see her without it, not even in war. But today, a human had touched her and saved her. And now, everything she believed felt strange. Before Ray could say more, a soldier rushed into the tent. "Lieutenant, new drop zones, more incoming ships, hostile." Ray grabbed his gear and looked at Thira. "Can you walk?" She nodded. "Then stick close, we're not safe yet." "Why would you still protect me?" He looked over his shoulder. "Because now I've seen who you really are, and I don't leave people behind." She was raised to never trust humans. He was trained to never break rules. But when her breath failed, his hands brought it back. And that touch may change both their worlds. Rain still poured over the shattered colony. Outpost, the sky was dark, ships burned in the distance. The ground trembled with the sound of distant explosions. But inside the temporary command tent, Thira stood still, staring at her reflection in a metal panel. No armor, just the thermal cloak covering her shoulders. No helmet to hide behind. And a memory she couldn't erase. The human's hands, removing her armor. The feeling of air returning to her lungs, and the warmth in his voice. Outside, Lieutenant Ray Carter loaded crates onto a supply rover. His arm was scratched, his uniform soaked, but his mind wasn't on the mission. It was on her. He hadn't seen her since the medics took her in. He didn't even know if she would speak to him again. To him it was a rescue. To her people, it might be something else. His thoughts were interrupted when a Velkari shuttle landed nearby. 3 tall figures in silver armor stepped out. Thira's command officers. They moved directly toward the medical tent. Ray followed. When he arrived, they were already surrounding her. One of them spoke harshly in Velkari tongue. Thira's eyes flickered between fear and defiance. Ray stepped forward. "Is there a problem?" One of the officers turned sharply. "Human, you are not part of this discussion." Thira raised a hand. "He saved me." "He violated your armor," the officer replied coldly. "That is a sacred boundary." "I told him to," Thira said. The officer looked surprised. "You gave permission?" "I was dying. I chose life over tradition." The room fell silent. Ray watched her closely. She wasn't just defending him, she was choosing her own voice. But the lead officer still shook his head. "You are changed now, Thira." "Marked." "Marked by what?" she asked. "By a touch, not meant to happen. And now the council will decide if that bond can be undone." Later that night, Thira sat alone under a tarp near the edge of the field base. Ray found her there, quiet, distant, wet hair sticking to her skin. He approached slowly. "I can leave if it helps." She looked up. "No. Stay." He sat beside her. "They're mad, aren't they?" She gave a small laugh. "That's an understatement. I didn't mean to disrespect anything, I was just trying to keep you alive." "I know," she said, "and that's what makes it worse." He raised an eyebrow. "Worse?" "Because now I wonder what else they've been wrong about." She looked at him carefully. "When you touched me, I expected to feel shame. I didn't." "What did you feel?" "Relief, warmth, trust." She leaned her head back, staring into the rain. "My armor was always heavy. But now, even without it, I feel stronger." Suddenly, a siren. A warning from the outer perimeter. Another wave of raiders was approaching. Ray stood quickly. Thira followed, adjusting her cloak. "You sure you're ready?" he asked. "I don't need armor to fight," she replied. Not anymore. She was supposed to fear the human's touch. Instead, it woke something powerful inside her. Now, unarmored and unafraid, she walks into the storm beside him. The battlefield was a broken stretch of steel and mud. Flashes of gunfire lit the air. Explosions cracked in the distance. Smoke poured from destroyed rovers and fallen drone units. Among the chaos, one figure moved with quiet purpose. Thira, no armor, no helmet, no mask. Just a dark cloak tied around her shoulders. Her green skin streaked with dirt and rain, and her silver hair whipping in the wind. She walked beside the human soldier who saved her, Ray Carter, as if the two had always fought, side by side, but everyone around them noticed. Eyes followed them. Whispers spread. "She's not wearing her armor. That's forbidden, isn't it? What's she doing with a human?" But no one stopped her. Because something in her presence said, "I don't need protection anymore." Ray stayed close, his pulse steady. He kept checking her side, making sure she wasn't hit. "You still sure about this?" he asked as they moved through a trench. "Yes," she said, scanning ahead. "The armor covered me, but it also held me back. And now? Now, I fight as myself." Suddenly, enemy fire. A bolt struck the ground near Ray's foot. He dove to the side, pulling Thira behind a broken wall. She didn't flinch. She stood up slowly, aimed, and fired. Her shots were clean, precise. 2 enemy scouts dropped instantly. Ray stared. That was impressive. She turned, expression calm. "Your people fight with logic. Mine fight with legacy. But I've decided to fight with truth." A nearby squad leader waved them over. "Lieutenant Carter, we need cover fire on the eastern ridge." Ray looked at Thira. She gave a small nod. They moved together, climbing debris, dodging flames. A wave of raiders approached from the ridge, fast, armored, deadly. Ray fired first, dropping one. Thira followed, moving like wind. Her cloak snapped open as she ran across the field, unarmored, untouched, her bare arms glowing faintly with bioluminescent lines. "She's glowing," a soldier shouted. "What is that?" But Ray knew. "She's not glowing," he whispered. "She's waking up." When the skirmish ended, Thira stood on the ridge, breathing hard. Bodies lay behind her. Silence returned. Even the Velkari soldiers stared, not because she'd broken tradition, but because she had proven she didn't need it anymore. Later, back at base, Thira sat with Ray beside a fire unit. Her cloak was torn. A bruise marked her leg, but she smiled as she sipped warm liquid from a canteen. "I haven't felt like this in years." "Alive?" Ray asked. "Free," she said. There was a pause. "They saw you today," he said. "The ones who doubted you." "They'll still doubt me tomorrow," she replied. "But they'll also remember what you did." Thira looked at him, her voice softer now. "Do you remember what you did?" "For me, Ray?" "Of course." "Then know this. Every time I breathe now, it started with you." He didn't respond right away, because deep down he felt something too, not just pride, not just respect, something warmer and stronger. She walked into battle unarmored and left the field a warrior reborn. Now her glow lights the path, and the human beside her is the only one who saw it first. The fires had cooled. The night over Zarna 3 was calm. Only the soft hum of generators and flickering lights filled the silence. Inside a half-destroyed watchtower, Ray Carter sat by the edge of a broken window, looking up at the stars. Thira sat beside him, her legs pulled close to her chest, a thin blanket wrapped around her shoulders. Neither of them spoke for a while. They just watched the sky, two people from different worlds who had fought through chaos and were now finally catching their breath. "It's beautiful," Ray whispered. "We used to name every star we could see," Thira replied. "Each one meant something. What do they mean now?" "I don't know. War changed that. We stopped naming things when we started losing too much." She looked at him, her eyes softer than before. "But I remember one name I've never spoken." Ray turned to her. "What name?" Thira hesitated. Her hands gripped the blanket tighter. "My true name, the one only family is allowed to hear." Ray blinked. I don't want to make you break a rule." "You didn't ask for it," she interrupted gently. "I want to give it to you." He stayed quiet. She reached up, brushed her silver hair behind her ear, and leaned closer. In a soft voice, almost like a breeze, she spoke a single word, a name that shimmered in the air. It didn't translate. It didn't need to. It was hers, and now it belonged to him too. Ray felt his chest tighten, not from fear, but from something rare, something sacred. "Why me?" he asked, voice low. Thira didn't look away. "Because you saw me without armor, and you didn't look away." "I didn't see weakness." "No," she said. "You saw someone still worth saving." A sudden gust of wind passed through the tower, but neither of them moved. They sat in silence until Ray broke it with a shaky laugh. "This doesn't feel like a battlefield anymore." "Because it's not," Thira said. "Not between us." Later, as they returned to base, they passed a Velkari patrol. Some nodded at Thira, others avoided her eyes. But none of them spoke her true name. Only Ray carried that now, and as Thira walked beside him, their hands brushed. She didn't pull away. That night in his quarters, Ray recorded a private message in his logbook. Day 12. "I was trained to fight aliens, trained to treat them as threats. But today, one of them gave me her real name. And now, I don't know if I'm still in a war, or in the beginning of something worth more than peace." She gave him her breath. Now, she gives him her name. And in a galaxy full of silence, one human finally heard her truth. A formal order came the next morning. Thira had been summoned by the Velkari War Council, not as a soldier, not even as a scout, but as someone who had broken sacred tradition. The message was clear. Appear before the council, alone, unarmored. Ray Carter wasn't allowed to go with her. He watched her prepare. No weapons, no armor, no cloak. Just her presence. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. Yes, she replied. I do. If I run now, I prove them right. Ray stepped forward. And if they try to punish you, then I'll show them who I really am. She touched his chest, just briefly. And if I speak your name there, it's because I want them to know the truth. The Velkari base was cold and silent. Thira stood alone in the middle of a circular hall surrounded by 7 tall council members. Their robes shimmered like moonlight. Their faces were hidden beneath ceremonial helmets. One of them spoke. Thira of the Ashlight House, we see you stripped of armor. By choice, she said firmly. Do you admit to allowing a human to remove it? Yes. And you gave him your true name? I did. A pause followed. Why? Thira looked up, unshaken. Because he saved my life, and because he reminded me I am more than what I wear. Another elder stood. You broke a 1,000-year-old code. That name was never meant for outsiders. Neither was mercy, she replied. The council chamber stirred. One of the younger members leaned forward. What did you feel when the human touched your skin? Life returning, she answered. And after? A reason to fight again. Outside, Ray waited. Every minute felt like an hour. He stood near the landing pad, watching the wind push dust across the stones. A few Velkari soldiers stared at him, but none spoke. Then the door opened. Thira stepped out. She was still unarmored, but she was smiling. Ray rushed to her. What happened? They asked if I regretted it, she said. And? I told them I would choose your touch again, every time. Did they accept it? She nodded slowly. Some did, not all, but enough. Ray let out a breath. So, what now? She stepped closer and her voice dropped to a whisper. Now I get to be me, and now I don't walk alone. That evening, the stars returned. Thira and Ray sat once more on the quiet ridge above the base. No more armor. No more hiding. She reached for his hand. You know what else they said? What? They told me I'm still Velkari, even without the suit. They're right, she smiled. And you? You're still just human? Maybe, but you make that feel like more. She stood before judgment with no armor, and left with more strength than ever. Now not just her people, but her heart has accepted the human who changed everything. The peace didn't last long. A distress signal came from the western ridge. A Velkari patrol had been ambushed by remaining raider forces. One of their last and deadliest commanders had returned, and he wasn't coming quietly. Thira and Ray joined the response team without hesitation. She didn't wear armor, she didn't need to. The enemy hit fast. Energy bolts sliced the air. Dust and smoke turned the battlefield into a blur. Half the squad was pinned behind jagged rocks and broken transports. Thira moved with precision, fast, agile, fearless. Ray followed close behind her. Left flanks exposed, he shouted. Thira nodded and sprinted forward. She climbed a fallen beam, took position, and began returning fire. For a moment, they had the advantage. Then, a loud explosion. The ground cracked. Thira turned too late. Shockwave struck her side and threw her hard into a wall of debris. Thira. Ray rushed to her. She was on the ground, barely moving. A shard of metal had pierced near her ribs. Her breathing was shallow. Blood, thick and deep violet, was Pooling fast, Ray dropped beside her, eyes wide with panic. "Stay with me, don't you dare!" She looked at him through half-lidded eyes. "Not again." He pressed his hands over the wound, trying to slow the bleeding. "Help's coming. Just hold on. No armor. Nothing to protect me," she whispered weakly. "You have me," Ray said, tears forming. "I'm not letting you go." Her skin was cold. Too cold. Her pulse slowed beneath his fingers. He gritted his teeth. Come on. Come on." He remembered the first time he touched her, when she was suffocating. Now it was her heart that was fading. He tore open a med kit, hands shaking, and injected a stabilizer into her arm. No response. Then, just when he thought she was slipping away, her hand moved, weakly, but enough to press against his chest. "You still carry my name, don't you?" she whispered. "I never let it go." A faint smile. Her pulse picked up. Reinforcements arrived minutes later. Medics took over. They carried her to a safe zone, where emergency treatment began. Ray followed, blood on his hands, breathing hard. Hours passed. He waited outside the tent, silent. When the curtain opened, a Velkari healer stepped out. "She asked for you." Ray rushed in. Thira lay on a stretcher, patched up, pale but awake. "Still breathing," she said. "Barely," he smiled. "You kept me alive. Again." "Not just me," he replied, sitting beside her. "You fought. You didn't give up." She looked into his eyes. "I heard your voice, felt your hands. That's what brought me back." They sat together in silence, her fingers wrapped around his. This time, no armor, no rules, just truth. She once thought armor kept her alive. But it was his touch again that saved her. Now her heartbeat echoes in his hands and the galaxy starts to listen. The war was ending. The raiders had retreated. Their final strongholds had fallen. Zarna 3 was being rebuilt, slowly, painfully, but peacefully, and among the ashes of battle, something else had survived. Thira. She stood at the edge of the high ridge, watching the twin suns rise over the quiet colony base. A light wind blew through her silver hair. Her skin, still healing, bore faint scars, marks of war, survival, and change. No armor. She hadn't worn it since the day Ray saved her, because she didn't need it anymore. Behind her, footsteps, Ray Carter. He walked up, stopping beside her. No weapons, no urgency. Just calm. They both stood in silence for a while. Then Thira spoke. "I was ordered to return to Velkari Prime." Ray nodded. "Makes sense. You're one of their heroes now." She didn't answer right away. "They want to honor me. Rebuild my armor. Give me command." "And do you want that?" She turned to face him. "I want to ask you something first. Anything. If I asked to stay with you, would that be a problem?" Ray blinked, caught off guard. "You'd give all that up?" She took his hand. "I already did. The moment you reached for me, when I couldn't breathe, everything changed. Not just my body, my spirit, my heart." He smiled. "Then stay. Please." That night, a quiet celebration took place in the camp. Humans and Velkari stood side by side, laughing, eating, remembering the ones they lost, and those they found. Ray and Thira sat together by the fire, hands intertwined. She rested her head on his shoulder. "You still carry my name?" "Always. And now, I carry yours." In Velkari culture, names were sacred, given only once. Shared only once. Now 2 names belonged to 2 people who no longer needed armor to stand strong. The next morning, Thira sent a message to her homeworld. Simple. Clear. "I am no longer just Velkari. I'm part of something more now. I choose this path. I choose him." As Ray stood beside her, watching her message fade into the stars, he whispered, "You once couldn't breathe in that armor. She looked up at him, smiling. Now I breathe with you.